that I've got a variety of different colors from oranges and pinks and greens and blues and mauves, all mixed at about the same value, the same lightness. And what I'm doing is painting different pathways of these colors, these big sweeping curves that come from the outside in towards the sun, and starting with the kind of darker, cooler colors of the outside of the painting, and those curves get kind of narrower and narrower as we get in towards the sun, and then doing the opposite, coming away from the sun, painting with the lightest, warmest colors out towards those cooler areas. And what that does is provides like an overall gradation as you move in closer to the sun, everything gets lighter and warmer, and that just really, really helps the glow. All of these various big curves of different colors, again, they just encourage your eye to move. Hello, and welcome to episode 14 of Becoming a Successful Artist. We're coming to you live today on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And today I'm going to be talking about sunk costs. And those are something that I'd never even really heard of until this year. But it's really, really important to know what these are, because they can kind of act as anchors holding us back, or they can kind of hold us hostage to what we thought we wanted to do prior to now. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today, is sunk costs, what they are and why you need to be aware of them. If you don't know me, if this is your first time with the show, I'm Tim Packer, and I'm a very successful artist. I've had a very successful career, and I've decided that what I want to do now, rather than paint more pictures and sell more paintings, I want to spend my time helping other people achieve their dream and changing people's lives. So if you dream of creating a successful career as an artist and going into your studio every day, doing what you love and having the world reward you for that, then this is the channel for you, and I'm sure that I can help you. Now, these for those of you that are live, welcome to the show. This is also available as a replay. So for those of you who are watching it on replay, welcome to the show as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about sunk costs, but I just want to put out there that good morning, Eileen. Nice to see you. Snowy day where you are. We've actually got a beautiful day. I just came back from a walk with my wife. It's like 1 degree, the sun's shining. So that was beautiful. But just getting in, for those of you who haven't been to the show before, if you have any questions, you can just put them in the chat. If it has to do with what I'm talking about today, then I'll answer it today. But you can ask me about anything to do with art or the business of being an artist. And if I'm not able to get to it today, that we'll deal with in another episode. But what you can do for now is just say hello and let me know where you're from. So hi, Monica from Colorado. Welcome. Nice to see you again. And again, just for those of you who haven't been here before, again, this is only the third week. We're getting people from all over the world, every time zone. So that just kind of blows my mind. So yeah, go in the chat, say hello, let us know where you're from. So what are sunk costs? That's the idea that when we've invested a certain amount of time, effort, money, whatever, into a certain area or into achieving a certain thing, that we then feel obligated to stay with that and to continue to pursue it. And it can often kind of hold us hostage. And if you're not aware of this, hi, Noreen from Florida. Well, actually, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to be down in Florida in the 15th of January. So we'll see what's going on with the whole world and the Omicron thing. But I'm hoping to get down there and get some golf in towards the end of January. But yeah, sunk costs are the things that we've put into something, and then it makes us feel obligated to stick with that. Now, this whole idea of sunk costs is really, really kind of hit the news and out there in the self-help when they talk about relationships, right? And that's the whole idea that, you know, the only thing worse than being in a toxic relationship for 10 years is to be in a toxic relationship for 10 years in one day or one more year. And that's the whole idea people have in relationships, that once they've invested a certain amount of time in a relationship, well, they're forced to stick with it. And you're actually not, right? And often the best thing you can do if it's a toxic relationship and it's never going to get better is to just cut your losses and move on. Hi, Lynn from Lindsay. Nice to see you. And this comes in a lot. And Noel from UK, welcome. We got, and yeah, I think we've kind of got everybody that's kind of going to say hi. But throughout the broadcast, if you haven't already, let us know where you're coming from. But this whole idea of sunk costs is also really, really important in terms of an actual painting, in terms of our development as an artist, in terms of what we're going to do with our life. And the most common example of that is, we have to decide, or our kids have to decide when they're 16 or 15, what they think they might want to do with their life. And then if they go to university and then they get a degree, that's a huge sunk cost, right? That they've invested a ton of time. Either they've invested a lot of money or their parents have invested a lot of money. And there's then like an obligation. Well, obviously you were going to pursue that. And a good example of that is Brooke Cormier. Most of you have been watching. You've seen the whole thing that happened with Brooke. So she had invested 4 years of her life. Her parents had invested 4 years of paying for university. And then she came out of university as a landscape architect. That's a huge sunk cost. And most people would not even be a question about what they're going to do, right? It's obviously you are going to pursue a career as a landscape architect, but you don't have to. And Seth Godin looks at sunk costs and he said, the way to look at a sunk cost is that's a gift from your former self to you, because your former self thought you wanted to do that. And now you have this gift. So there Brooke was with this gift of a degree as a landscape architect. It's now up to her whether she wants to accept that gift and move forward with that in her life or not. But it's not an obligation. And we often look at sunk costs as an obligation that, well, I've already invested this much in it. I obviously have to keep doing that. And I see that happen all the time. When I used to teach workshops, that happens even in a painting. So say, for example, it takes you 4 hours on average to complete a painting. And you're working on a painting and it's just really not working. And you get to that 4-hour mark and there's just all kinds of things wrong with it. And so what do most artists do? Well, they invest another 4 hours into trying to fix it. And then it's just not working. And it's like, well, I've already got 8 hours invested in this. I need to keep going till I can make it work, because otherwise I've wasted those 8 hours. And that's the wrong way to look at this, because often what happens is if you've invested twice the time into a painting and it's not working, it's not likely ever going to work. And what I used to say to my students is you need to kill it or fix it in a half hour and move on with the rest, with the next one. But what would have been a better use of time is 4 hours in when you realize it's not working, right? Rather than wasting another 8 hours trying to make it work, is look at everything that went wrong with that painting, start a new painting, and don't do the stuff that went wrong. And then at the end of 4 hours, start a new painting. You could have done 3 paintings in that time. But we get so bogged down in the sunk cost. Well, I've already invested in this. I have to make it work. And then we also tend to do that with our careers. And so the pictures behind me represent, other than my boys aren't a sunk cost, but you can see the one over this shoulder, that's me in uniform. I had 18 years invested in a career as a police officer. I had a very, very successful career going. I had been promoted to sergeant and then detective. I was working in our commercial crime unit. It's one of the top commercial crime units in the world. Just so you know, my partner who I had when I first came on, he ended up just recently retiring at one rank below deputy chief. And I was on the path to kind of achieve that. But I realized at 40, that's not what I want to do with my life. I want to pursue my art career. I need to pursue my art career. And so I just turned my back on that career as a police officer and kind of launched into that. And then initially, because I started out painting my kids, I got really, really into portraits. and became very successful at painting portraits, and was elected to the Canadian Society of Painters in Watercolor, was elected as a senior signature member of the Canadian Institute of Portrait Artists. And so I was in the top kind of level of portrait painters in Canada. And it's kind of like you would think, oh, well, then you must continue as a portrait painter. But then I got to the point where I hated painting portraits. And so what do? It's like I've told that story where I debated and almost let the sunk costs keep me there. But it's like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to pursue landscape. And then I pursued very, very abstracted landscapes. And I'm going to get Cameron to take me out of the picture in just a second. There's an example of that kind of right behind me at the bottom. But I really dug deep into these abstracted watercolor landscapes where I'd created my own unique voice. The sales were okay. The teaching was through the roof. I was getting a ton of demand to go out and teach workshops of this style. But I realized, I'm really not kind of married to watercolor, even though at the time I was elected president of the Canadian Watercolor Society. You would think, wow, you must continue in watercolor because that's a huge kind of a feather in your cap. And I just realized, no, because I was doing the festivals, because I wanted to work big, I wanted to make the move to oils. And so even though I created this unique voice that was very popular with students, that was okay for sales, I turned my back on it. So Cameron, maybe just take me off now and you can see the image behind me. Okay, so and again, those paintings were done with on like full sheet of watercolor, starting with no pen, no pencil ever, just wet in wet. And I absolutely loved the process. And I absolutely loved the finished work. But the public liked the finished work. And what ended up happening is I realized if I was going to go out on the festival circuit, I really couldn't continue in watercolor because you could only go so big before the frame and the glass just got too heavy. And also that watercolors don't travel well. So it's like, well, I'm going to put my hat into the oils. And then I developed my unique style of painting. That's the sun coming through the trees, and had a very, very successful 15-year career of doing that, and could have just kept doing that. And again, how much money I could make is kind of unlimited because I still sell a ton of the prints. And if I just wanted to maximize how much money I could make doing that, I would have stuck with that. But it started to get a little boring. And then I realized that after my health issues and after what I've been able to do with Brooke, that what I really want to do is help people achieve what I've done, help people kind of live their dreams, work on changing people's lives, and figure out a way that I could make a living doing that. And so I just turned my back on the painting. And I've only painted, I think this year total, I think I've painted 5 weeks total, and that's it. And the rest of the time has been spent on creating my online art academy. And I'm actually doing right now what I love to do. And I honestly believe that the teaching is going to be the most successful part of my career of anything that I've done. But I had all of these times where sunk costs were there kind of trying to hold me back, right? Trying to say, no, you've already achieved all this. You should stick here. And so that's the point that I want to get across to all of you now, that do not let yourself be held hostage by sunk costs, right? If you've started with a particular type of painting or process and you're having reasonably good success with that, and that's where you've kind of dug deep, there's a tendency to go, well, okay, that's where I have to focus all of my efforts. But that may not be in your best interest. And the other thing that happens is it's kind of like once you've dug deep in something and you've achieved, after 2 or 3 years, if you're generating $15,000, $20,000 in sales, you might even be like, one of the top sellers at your local art association or whatever. But that's not going to improve just because you keep doing it, right? It's like, so you have to decide, it's like, do I want to be that person that I've invested 5 years of my career into being able to sell $20,000 worth of work. And I know if I keep doing that, I can do that. But if you do that for 2 or 3 years in a row, okay, the world has spoken. It's like what you do is worth $20,000 a year. That's all we're willing to pay for it. So you can either succumb to those sunk costs, guarantee that 20 grand a year, or go, you know what? There's something else that I could do where I could make 30, 40, 50, 100, $250,000 a year, but I have to leave behind that kind of guarantee of what I put into it. And for most artists, I see them getting stuck there. They've found something that they can do, that they've invested a lot of time in to produce work that they can sell for a few hundred, maybe $1,000. And it's scary to walk away from that, because here's the thing: when you walk away from your sunk costs, there's a chance it might not work, right? And so it's like, yeah, and then you move on. There's never any guarantees. But if you succumb to that, especially when you have a little bit of success, that can be the worst thing, because when you have a little bit of success at something, you think, oh, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then you stick with it. And so sunk costs are not altogether bad, but they're bad when you just never question them. Because here's an example of sunk costs that are good. I've done 13 up until today, 13 live broadcasts in a row from Monday to Friday. Every day I've gone on and done a live broadcast. Well, today there was no discussing with myself whether or not I'm going to do a live broadcast, right? Because I've already got 13 in. I'm not going to have that discussion. Should I do a live broadcast today or shouldn't I? It's like I got 13 in a row. I'm going to keep it going. But I'm not going to do that for the rest of my life. I don't know if you guys realize this, but it's pretty difficult to put together content and to come on 5 days a week and do a live broadcast. So I'm doing that now because I want to get the word out there about my courses, and also to share all of this content for free. But I'm going to reassess this at a certain point. And at a certain point, it's going to become difficult to go, okay, this is the week where I cut back to maybe once a week. Because it's like, wow, I've done 5 weeks or however long every day, Monday to Friday. But again, you can use it as a motivator, but just don't let it hold you hostage. Now, that can also happen in business relationships. I had a situation with a gallery that I was with where they had approached me. I was already doing fine, but they had approached me. They were a very high-end gallery in downtown Toronto, had approached me several times about showing my work, and had just said, well, we'll be happy to get whatever you're willing to give us. And so, like, on that basis, I said, okay, yeah, sure. But then what ended up happening is, and this goes back to that old dynamic of the power dynamic between galleries and gallery owners and artists, where it used to be all in the power of the gallery owners. And gradually what happened is this gallery owner and the gallery started wanting to have a bigger and bigger input into me and my career, and also almost kind of having control over things. And it came to a head when there was a client that I had as a client of mine for several years, that right when I switched to this gallery, that client emailed me and wanted to buy a piece that was on my website. And this was a significant piece too. This was about a $10,000 painting, but I had just dropped that painting off at this new gallery. So I sent him an email. I CC'd the gallery director, and I said to him, oh, this painting is now at this gallery. I've CC'd the director. I'm sure he'll be able to help you. So I basically gave them a $12,000 sale. And then, like, a couple years later, that same person came to my open house and bought a piece. And the gallery owner contacted me later when he found out this person bought one of my paintings, and expected that I would give him his commission, because in his words, that was his client. So he was under the impression that every time someone walked into his gallery, they immediately became his client. And if I sold anything to that person directly, he got a chunk. So that was obviously not going to fly with me. We'd had a couple kind of issues with this. And then when I opened my own gallery, the gallery owner told me that, well, he expected that if any of his clients came into my gallery and bought a piece, that I should cut him his commission. And again, this was at a time where I was already blowing up on social and I had access to many more people than him. And I just said to him that that's ridiculous and it's not going to fly. And he said to me, well, no, this is a deal breaker. If you don't agree to giving us a commission on sales to our clients, this is a deal breaker. And I said, okay, then. And he was like, okay, what's the commission? And I said, no, okay, then this deal is broken. We are done. I'll be down this week to pick up all my work and our relationship is over. And he was actually stunned. And he said to me, he said, like, well, we sell $100,000 of your work every year. Like, are you just going to walk away from that? And I said, you don't sell a single dollar anymore. It's like, no, it's like, I'm not continuing in this relationship. And that's a huge sunk cost, right? There's four or 5 years involved in this gallery relationship. They had a huge clientele of people that were willing to buy my work, and they were selling over $100,000 of my work every year. But it's like, it didn't make sense for me to continue in this relationship. And so I just walked away from it. And it's important for you during your entire career to always be thinking of that when you feel those sunk costs kind of reaching up and grabbing you by the leg and trying to pull you back to something that you feel you owe it to continue, you just have to stop and say, no, whatever it is, wherever I am now, that's a gift from my former self. That's what I thought I wanted to do, or where I thought I wanted to go, or a gallery I thought I wanted to be involved with. But that does not hold you hostage that you keep going in that. You continually reassess, does that make sense for me to continue that now, regardless of how much time and effort went into that leading up to then. And I never even realized all of this theory, that it's an actual thing in business. But when I look back at my career, I think that's one of the reasons I've been so successful, is I've been able to just cut and bail from sunk costs. If I reach the decision that this is what I should be doing, doesn't matter how much effort I put into that over here, I'm going to make the pivot and do this. And I encourage all of you to kind of always consider this, and at least once a year, kind of look at, where am I going? And is that because that's where I really want to go? Or is it because that's where I pointed the compass 12 years ago and I just assumed I have to keep going on with that? That's it, Dominic. It's like relationships with galleries constantly change due to the market fluctuations, personal interactions, and also the internet. Like the one thing I do want to say, I don't want to give the impression that I'm down on galleries. I had a relationship with Esther Inglis, who was the owner of Gallery on the Lake for 20 years. And it was one of the best relationships I've had in business in my entire career. They just sold the gallery, and that relationship is coming to an end. But where it's just like in a normal relationship, the relationship with that one particular gallery is they always wanted everything to be in their benefit. And whenever there was any question of, here's my needs and here's their needs, they always wanted their needs to come first, and to the point where it was unreasonable. And when you're in a relationship like that, doesn't matter whether it's a friendship, whether it's a marriage or a business relationship, you just have to make a decision to say, is it worth continuing? Because it's not going to get any better. That's the issue, right? It's like, if you could improve the relationship, maybe. But I knew this was not going to change with this gallery owner. This was going to be a battle every time. And it's like, I don't need or want to continue doing that. And we recently had the same sort of thing when I decided that I wanted to start teaching online. Initially, I thought, well, maybe we'll create a course and we'll put it up and people can download it. And so we actually registered a website, which was timpackercreative.com. And we got all of the infrastructure in place where we could put up, and that's my Birches and Crimson Maple demonstration painting. That's the very first kind of course that we filmed. That was actually right before I got sick. But then it was just kind of going to be done as kind of a side thing. So we registered a site, we created a whole new site, we had it up there, and we actually started selling the course. And it went okay. But what we realized was that the downloadable model was just not feasible for a lot of people, because, the course was like, 8 hours of video or 6 hours of video is a fairly big file size. People can't download that onto their iPad, and they don't want to. People want to be able to live stream, of course, so they can watch it on their iPad. They can watch it on their phone. They can watch it from any device. And so we realized that that whole model is just not going to work. We did a lot of investigating. We decided to go where I am now, which is on Kajabi, and we just cut our losses with the other site. All of that time that we'd invested, it's just like, that's not where our interests lie going forward. So it's like, just leave it, create a whole new course that's going to really kind of serve our needs. So Christopher wants to know, what percentage would a gallery take off a sale? So that particular gallery was taking 50%. So they expected that if one of my clients, who I already had prior to even knowing them, came to me and bought a painting out of my gallery, that I would cut them 50%. So yeah, you can tell me whether you think that's reasonable. Again, when the initial interaction with them was, we'd be happy to just get whatever you're willing to give us. And what happened is, over time, just gradually started wanting more and more and more input, and then thinking that they kind of owned a piece of me. They thought because they were selling so much work, that gave them a right to put kind of things on me that I was just not willing to give them. Hi, Max, and I'm glad you guys are loving the live streams. I'm actually loving doing them. It is actually, that's my day. That's my job. Is my job, once I finish here, is to prepare tomorrow's live stream, and then when I get up in the morning, to go over it and then come on and do it. And I have to say that for now, especially during COVID, I'm not going anywhere. I'm kind of loving it. Hi, Martin. How are you? And I'll just mention again, for those of you, Happy New Year, Dominic. For those of you who haven't seen me either, Dominic Modlinski, one of Canada's top painters. He also offers workshops. So if you are looking to take workshops, Dominic, are you actually doing live workshops, or are you just online now with COVID? I'm not sure what the situation is out there in BC. I know I saw you had a bunch of new workshops scheduled. Again, I'm not sure if Dominic's still with us, but definitely check out his work. Brilliant, brilliant painter. And actually, Dominic is, I think of Dominic and another good friend of his, David McEwen. They're like the modern Tom Thompsons. They'll actually go camp out on a glacier, paint plein air. I love the stories they tell about on some of their trips. They actually they have a rifle with them, and they have to paint back to back because they're in grizzly country, and you don't want to be kind of unaware and painting and have a grizzly sneak up on you. Okay, so yeah, Dominic's still just doing Zoom workshops, but I know that he offers live ones too. So once all the COVID is done, but I think he just posted a bunch of Zoom workshops. So if you're looking to kind of, again, invest in kind of learning some new skills and techniques, check out Dominic's website, and definitely I would recommend taking his workshops. So tomorrow I am going to talk about passion, because there's a lot, everybody hears that in the news, it's like, follow your passion, follow your passion, follow your passion. And I 100% agree with that. But the definition of passion is very specific. And I think a lot of people mistake an interest or a fascination in something with a passion. And so tomorrow I'm going to go into great detail about what it takes for something to actually be a passion. Hi, Rita. Yeah, you can watch the previous live stream. So if you go to my YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/C/Tim Packer Fine Arts, because I think I see you're watching on Facebook. If you go to my YouTube channel, and I think you have to click over on the live, so you can see a list of videos, and then there's a separate section for live videos. So this will be number 14 that's gone up there in the last 3 weeks. And we've got someone from Cape Town, South Africa. Can you put that up, Cameron? Is it Lavona?
Welcome, Lavona. Again, this just blows me away. I do want to talk about one thing too. So while we're into the whole sunk cost things, I was one of the very first artists to do live streamable art workshops online, and that was back in 2004. And that was with a company called Art Academy Live. And Sterling Edwards, who's another buddy of mine, Morgan Samuel Price, like those two are huge in the teaching workshops. We were all involved in this, and it was teaching online, basically what people are doing now with Zoom. And there was a tech entrepreneur down in Pinehurst, North Carolina, who kind of created this, and they courted me and asked me to come down and teach. And we had to pay our own flight to go down there. Oh, from Germany. I think you're our first from Germany. Hi, Sylvia. But yeah, we had to pay my own flight down to Pinehurst. They would put me up in this artist cottage they had. It was set up like a studio. We'd film for like 3 days, and then over the course of a year, I think I flew down there like 3 times. And but what ended up happening is the cost was just so expensive. It cost them several $100,000 just to get the cabling in and all of the equipment to have the bandwidth to broadcast live. And most of our audience was not in a position where they were computer savvy enough to actually go online and watch a live broadcast, right? So I invested a huge amount of time, a couple $1,000s in flights, and it never earned a single dollar. But what it did teach me was that I'm pretty good at being on camera. And they actually told me that the editor, Larry, said I was one of his favorite artists because he didn't have to do a lot of editing, that I was able to kind of keep talking and do it all in one take. And so those sunk costs are not lost, right? Those sunk costs you take with you, they just don't dictate what you're going to do. The one thing the police force gave me was discipline, that I get up and go to work every day. Doesn't matter if I feel like it. And when I was on the police force, didn't matter if it was Christmas Day, didn't matter if it was my birthday, didn't matter if it was my anniversary, if it was my kid's anniversary, if I had to miss a wedding, if I had to be at work, I had to go to work. That's what you do when you're a professional, right? And that's actually also when you're an entrepreneur. It's like when you're an entrepreneur, which if you're going to be an artist, you are an entrepreneur. It's like you do what you have to do when you have to do it. When I started my career as an artist, once things started picking up for me, I missed family vacations. There was 3 times, I think, where Diane and the boys went on ski vacations for a week. And it's like, I can't go. I've got an important show that weekend. Have to stay home and do that. So that's what I got from the police force, was that discipline of just you get up and you go to work. And I know that's a big thing for a lot of artists, right? That whole discipline. And that is going to be covered in another episode down the road. How do you force yourself to get up and go to work? Because that's what professionals do. That whole idea of doing portraits, what that really taught me was to be able to see and to be able to accurately put what I see down on paper or canvas. Because when you do a portrait of someone, you either capture them or you don't, right? When you can do a tree is a tree is a tree. But when you're doing that person, it's like, no, that needs to be their eye, their nose, their expression. And painting in watercolor. What that got me was, first of all, an unbelievable sense of color, because everything that you put down is seen. There's no opaque paint. But it also taught me to put the right stroke of the right color, of the right value, with the right degree of moisture in the brush at the right time, because you can't come in and fix stuff. And what that helped me do is when I moved to oils, I paint very, very, very quickly, because of the fact that I'm not in a situation where I want to just paint quickly and then clean stuff up. It's like, no, I'm going to paint very accurately the first time, but do it quick, because that's what watercolor gave me. And all of that stuff that I've done behind that now comes into when I decide that I can teach. I have all of these experiences and all of the stuff that I can bring to the table. So your sunk costs aren't a write-off. They're always there for you to draw upon, but don't let them dictate what you do going forward, especially if you start to become dissatisfied or if it starts to become boring. I know Seth Godin says that when he quits feeling a little scared and everything just feels like, oh, I could do this forever. It's like, maybe you should start looking for something that's a little scary that you can lean into. So that's my thoughts on sunk costs. Now, I did have a couple questions. People came in, questioned me regarding my online course. So for those of you that don't know, like I've got a course, Becoming a Successful Artist. It's a bundle with a whole pile of courses, but what it also gives you is access to my Hungry Artist community. And what we're doing now is we've decided that for that, the first 100 people that sign up for the Hungry Artist community, they're going to get lifetime access to that. And that is going to be a paid subscription service where it's going to be $19 a month. And so for those that sign up before we hit 100, they're going to get that for free. And we just passed 90 yesterday, so there's less than 10 of those spots available. But someone did ask me if I could go into the curriculum for the Making a Decent Living as a Full-Time Artist course. So I've pulled that up. So I'm just going to go through. So you can get descriptions of all the other courses that are up there, but here's what's offered in the Making a Decent Living as a Full-Time Artist. So it's 23 different modules. Each one's about half an hour. And the very first one is on mindset. And so first of all, I just go into what is a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Second module is on actually monitoring your mindset and figuring out where you are in terms of mindset. And then tools and exercises that you can do to actually move you into a growth mindset. And basically, a growth mindset is you can just quote Henry Ford: whether you believe you can do something or you can't do something, you are absolutely right. And so a growth mindset is the idea that talent is only the sum total of all the skills, knowledge, experience, creativity that you've put into practice, and that your ultimate potential is limitless if you're willing to do the work. A growth mindset is, isn't that person lucky they were born with this gift? If you think art is a gift, if you think I have a gift, you are in a fixed mindset. If you are in a fixed mindset, it is almost impossible to have a successful career as an artist. And then in the next module, I talk about the 3 essentials, and that is having a passion for art, having a passion for learning, and having a solid work ethic. I go into great detail on each of those and also give you some exercises that you can do to improve that. And then we get into creating a plan, because if you don't have a plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So every year, at the end of the year, I sit down, I look at what I want to achieve for that year. I look what went good and didn't go good in the year before. And then I actually sit down and create a plan. Here's what I'd like to have happen. And then here are the specific steps that I need to do to make that more likely. So we get into how to create a plan, and then just as importantly, how to hold yourself accountable, right? It's like just look at the exercise industry. It's $1 billion industry, the fitness industry, right? And it's like the problem is not coming up with a plan to get fit. Any exercise program and any reasonable diet program, if you stick with it, you will be in great shape by the end of the year. You'll certainly be in a heck of a lot better shape than you are right now. The biggest problem that people have is holding themselves accountable to it and actually doing the work. And so I get into that and things that you can do to hold yourself accountable, to actually do the things that you know you should do to keep you moving on your journey to reach your ultimate potential. And then we get into the art world itself. I get into a brief history of kind of the art world and how postmodernism came out of that, and what postmodernism is and why it has screwed up so many aspiring artists in terms of thinking, in terms of what it is they should be trying to create if they want to make a living selling art, because there is no one art world. There's a number of different art villages, and I go into that in terms of what village we're in and what you need to be paying attention to in terms of what's going on out there in the art world, and which stuff you can just say, that's not for me, doesn't impact me, I don't even need to worry about it. And then I get into the 3 different painting modes that you need to know about and you need to be able to do. So one of them is process mode, one of them is practice mode, and one of them is product mode. They're 3 very different modes of creativity. You need to know what they are. You need to know which one you should be in, depending on what it is you're hoping to achieve. And so read a sync, you can go at your own pace. Yes. So that's one thing. All of my courses on here, they're all lifetime courses. So it's not like you have an expiry date. It's not like you have to follow along at a certain pace. You can take as long as you want, and you can come back at any given time. And for this, this course, in particular, the Earning a Decent Living, I expect people that sign up for the masterclass now and get this as part of it, that they'll be coming back 5 years, even 10 years down the road, because there'll be a particular part of that course that is now relevant to them. So that's the great thing about it. You can take it at your own pace. You can go back and rewatch it as many times as you want. And so what did I say? So we were product, process, and practice mode. Kind of, again, if you don't know what those are, that alone is worth taking this course, because that's what's going to get you to the point where you're creating great art with a unique voice. And then we go into exposure. And first of all, how the emergence of the internet and social media has totally changed that. It has taken the gatekeepers out of any position of power. You have the choice of whether or not you want to work with a gallery. And again, those of you that know the story of Brooke, the only gallery she's ever shown in was mine. And she did that as a favor to me. And I'll go into great detail, kind of my experience with social media and selling online. And then I'm going to deal with all the different venues potentially for selling. So traditional venues like galleries and all kinds of non-traditional ones. And then when we get into selling your work, and we're going to talk about that whole idea of balancing creativity with business, because when you do art as a hobby, it's all just about what you want to do, and that is fine. But as soon as you start thinking, I'm going to make this a profession, now you're creating art. You have to have in mind how the other people respond to it. And I know for a lot of artists, they've been taught, oh, you can't care about what other people think. It's like, can you think of another business where the business owner thinks they can totally disregard what the client is interested in? It's ludicrous, right? And if you don't want to do that, then you keep art as a hobby. But it's ridiculous to expect that's going to give you a good career and let you earn a lot of money. But then it becomes to how do we balance that? Because ideally what you want to do is you want to get to a point where you go into your studio every day, where you absolutely love the process. You are creating the paintings that you want to create. You love the process of doing it. You love and are proud of the finished work. And there's enough of the public out there that loves the finished work that they will give you a decent living for doing it. And that is the whole purpose of this course, is to get you there to the point where you can actually do that. Because once you can do that, then earning $30,000 a year is easy. And I found that $30,000 a year seems to be a bit of a cap. Once an artist reaches a point where they're creating work that generates them $30,000 a year in earnings, then they probably are consistently creating great work with a unique voice. And then what happens is more and more people want it. And that's what happened to me in 2005 when my current style kind of emerged. That was the first year I made $30,000 a year. My sales went up over $100,000 over the next 3 years without me doing anything different. It was just because the demand went up. As the demand goes up, the price goes up. But once you get to that stage, then we also get into things you can do to scale your earnings. And that's where doing things like prints has a huge impact. So there's going to be a course that's going to be included in this, that's going to be on self-publishing for artists. So we'll go into 3 different scenarios and kind of on a budget, kind of medium budget, and then what we do to create my very large prints. And there's going to be a course on creating online courses or teaching online. And because for those artists out there that supplement their income with teaching, this whole COVID thing has been devastating, right? Teaching online, like I'm just finished the first year and we've generated over $70,000 in earnings with the Online Art Academy. And that is something that we are at a nexus point for that, because COVID, what it's done is it's made everyone kind of very quickly get on board with the idea of online learning, with Zoom, with online conferences. So this is, if you got into the internet right when the internet became a thing, when the first Windows, I think it was 95, was out, we're at that stage now with online teaching. And this is the time to get on board if you are a teacher. And the other thing about it is you don't have to travel all over the country, and you're not susceptible to things like COVID. And we could be dealing with COVID for another year, 2 years, 3 years, who knows? So that is also going to be a course that comes on there. So for my, again, that bundle, it's $595 and you get lifetime membership in the Hungry Artist community. And what we do there right now, it's every month we get together and it will either be a critique session or it will be a question and answer session or it will be a live coaching session. And what I'll do is we actually have kind of a waiting list now, people that have signed up, but I'll meet with an artist online on Zoom. We'll kind of discuss everything that's going on in their career right now. I'll then go look at their social media, look at their website, all that stuff. And then we'll have a live session where I'll give them my advice, kind of like what I did with Brooke, about here's what I think you should be doing in the short term, in the medium term, and the long term. And that's done in front of everyone. And then people also have the ability to ask questions. And then also all of those live sessions are available to be rewatched as well. So getting it, if you get into, again, taking the course, the big difference is you have it all set up in a structured environment and you have the ability to have direct access to me and ask specific questions about you. In this format, for those of you who can't afford it or it's for whatever reason don't want to do it, happy to give out my content for free, but you are going to get generic information that kind of applies to everyone. I'm not going to go and look at your website and give you feedback. I'm not going to look at your work and give you feedback. So yeah, we have on my website now, so the Tim Packer Art Academy that you see above my head, if you go there, you can click on our Boxing Day specials. And we also have a number of my mini courses available 2 for 1. And we have the 4 mini courses available for like $139 if you can't afford the big one. But yeah, that's going on. So I'm certain that in the next couple days, that offer for the lifetime membership in the Hungry Artist is going to be gone. And that will not be offered ever again. That's, like I say, the whole purpose of that is for it to be a, how do you know if the Becoming Successful Artist bundle is for me? Well, I guess we talked about yesterday is kind of, if you want a guarantee, I'll guarantee I'll give you your money back. So I have a 30-day no money back guarantee, but I don't know if you have what it takes to become a successful artist. That's the bottom line, right? I do know that if you do all of the things that you should do, and that's where I come in. I've spent an incredible amount of time putting this together to put what I think, the things that I think are important to becoming a successful artist. I have the social proof of, again, mentoring Brooke for a 2-year period and to get her in 5 years where her work sells more than mine does now. So it's kind of like, I think I know what I'm talking about. But if you're looking for a guarantee, there's no guarantee. This might not work for you. And the main reason it might not work for you, for anyone out there, is you might not want this bad enough, right? It takes an incredible amount of work, an incredible amount of dedication to become a successful artist, just like it does to become a successful singer, just like it does to become a successful professional golfer. And 80% effort won't do it. 90% effort won't do it. So you have to ask yourself, is becoming a successful artist the most important thing in your life? If you reach the end of your life and you didn't try to become a successful artist and give it your all, is that going to be the biggest regret of your life? And if the answer is yes, then I'd say this course is for you. If you are looking for an easy fix, and I could tell you the one thing this course is not, how can you continue to create the work you're creating and earn a decent living? Because the answer is, for 95% of the artists out there, I don't know how you can do that. Because 95% of the artists out there are creating reasonably competent, mediocre work that the public looks at and goes, oh, gee, that's nice. And I don't know how you can create a successful career out of, oh, that's nice. I know that once you get to the point where you're creating work where people go, oh my God, I love that. I have to have that. Once you can do that, creating a good career is easy, but it takes an incredible amount of work to get there. But what I will just say is, If you sign up for the course now and in 30 days you decide, hey, this is not for me, I'll give you your money back. So yeah, that's all I can do, but I can't guarantee you anything. Was there a guarantee when I left the police force to pursue my art career? No. Was there a guarantee when I quit portraits to pursue abstract landscapes? No. Was there a guarantee when I quit watercolor to pursue oil portraits? No. And was there a guarantee when I quit painting to pursue teaching? No. There's no guarantees. So that's it. That's the whole idea of pursuing a life as a creative. Is it's like you're going to put your heart and soul into something that's meaningful for you, but knowing this might not work. And it's like, I don't want everyone to become a successful artist because not everyone is going to put in the same level of effort that I have and that those other successful artists have. And if you're not willing to put in the effort, then you shouldn't have a successful art career. It's kind of like, again, I bring in professional golfers a lot. It's like, the difference between someone that can go out and shoot 2 under par every round and someone that shoots 2 over par, the difference is not that big a difference in terms of how good of a golfer they are. But the person who shoots 2 under par can make millions of dollars a year. The person who shoots 2 over par, they can get a job at a golf course as a golf pro. Right. And so, again, that's that whole idea that if you want to make a living at this, then you need to search for great and you need to be able to create great work. I can help you figure out what are the things you need to do to get there. Doesn't matter whether it's watercolor, doesn't matter whether it's acrylic, doesn't matter whether it's oil, doesn't matter whether it's portraits, whether it's florals, whether it's landscapes, whether it's abstract, it's all the same. I can't teach you how to do it, but I can tell you the things that you need to do. I can tell you where you need to put in your time if you are going to have a hope of achieving it. And then it is all on you. So again, that's what I would say to people. Like, yeah, this is not some take my course and you're a successful artist. It's like, take my course and it's going to tell you what you need to do over the next 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years if you want to get where I am. And if you're willing to do that, then I guarantee you I am all in to do everything I can do to help you get there. But if you're looking for a guarantee, please don't take my course. There's no guarantees. It's because I don't know you. And maybe you have what it takes to become a successful artist. And maybe what you really want is a very serious hobby that earns you a little bit of extra cash. And that's fine too. But that's not what I'm teaching. And that's not what I'm offering. So if you're interested in that, if you go to the website, you can click on our Boxing Day special, and that's all there. And tomorrow we are going to talk about passion, and that would probably be a good. Who was that made that comment, Cameron? Joy. That would be a good one to watch because that will tell you whether you have a passion for art. If you have a passion for art, you have a willingness and ability to learn, and you have a solid work ethic, then I guarantee you can create a successful career as an artist. But you need to have all 3 of those things. And so tomorrow's video, you'll at least be able to determine, do I have an interest in art? Do I have a fascination with art? Or do I have an honest to God passion? And I can tell you that probably 90% of people who think they have a passion for something, they don't. They have a fascination. And until it turns into a passion, it's not likely or reasonable to expect that they're going to actually make it as a professional in that field. So I guess this is a good time to go. Thanks for joining me. I will see you tomorrow.